Jacob, I was looking around and interviewing for different positions, and a colleague of mine came and interviewed here. And he liked the place, he liked the neighborhood, he liked John and Wendy, and he said that I was the person they were looking for, not him. And so I figured I'd look into it. And what we found out was, I mean, there are a lot of, I don't know what interviews you have on record, but it turns out that not every moment of Beth Jacob history has been such a wonderful moment. There's been some up and there's been some down, and not everything's been so rosy. So the shul was coming off a not so good period in its history. And that happens in synagogues, and there are lots of synagogues like that. When you read through the sort of questionnaires that synagogues put out asking for, when they're looking for a rabbi, and a lot of them have a woe is us feel to it. The Beth Jacob one had some of the same content of woe is us, but also had but we can become something greater. But we have the potential to become something more, and we want to, and we have the energy to, and that's what we're looking to do. The seed for a renewal are present, and the soil is conducive. And that was a big part of the difference. And it started with the leadership at that time, but instead of just saying, we're in a tough spot, there's nothing to do about it, there was a desire to change and improve. And that's the key thing. If I'm going to go somewhere, it's not, it shouldn't just be a place where, where you're just sitting around saying, woe is me, where it's sort of an activity in a building. And it's fun to come to a place like this, because in Hamilton, you can sort of be a big fish in a small pond. It's just coming right out of rabbinical school, and the choice of being a number 2 or number 3 person in a big synagogue, or you can come here. And as soon as I arrived, there's a sense of responsibility and a sense of respect and a sense of optimism. I mean, just today, I've been here, this is 2013, I came in 2006. I'm not new. Today at Shalom Village, a woman came up and said, how do you become a rabbi? Like, what do you have to do it? How long do you have to study? Because you're so young. Can a person this young become a rabbi? And I'm thinking, if this is the case now, what was it like 7 years ago when I showed up? So yes, despite everything this community had been through, and all of the downtime, and all of the difficulties, and all of the mistakes that people on multiple sides of every issue had made, there's still a desire to make it work, and not to let go, and not just to say no. So that's what's exciting, and that's what we still try to do. And in the meantime, we've done stuff. We try to attract more families. We try and make sure that people from every age group are looked after. We've redone the space, which helps transform people's experience of Jewish life, which helps make Jewish life more attractive, and the goal is to connect them to themselves and to God and to each other and to the tradition and to their ancestors and to their descendants and all of this. And we try and create a space where that can happen. And in many ways we've had success.
Can you talk just for a minute about what did it mean to you? Like, when this space was transformed and we brought in the Jerusalem stone, and this became, I would say, part and parcel of this new era. First of all was finding you and bringing you here, and part 2 of that was this. So can you just connect those 2 things?
There's a few pieces. One goal as a rabbi is always to lead the synagogue that you would want to be in anyway. There's some rabbis who end up davening in shuls that they wouldn't daven in if they weren't on the payroll. And I never wanted to be that. So I've always tried to create a space that if I don't want to be there, no one's going to want to be there. So I have to want to be there, and we have to do that. In one sense, we had that downstairs, and that it was nice and it was small, but in the end, people felt it was rinky-dink, felt it was small time. And the issue with the 660-seat sanctuary is that it's just not realistic that in a town this size, with the number of people who would realistically want to come to a traditional egalitarian conservative synagogue, we're not going to fill that week to week. It's going to feel empty. The chapel just felt too small to people. So making space with proper lighting, which is important, with a feel of the sacred, which is to say that it doesn't feel like it's anything but a sanctuary in all the senses of that term. You're surrounded by the Jerusalem stone, which has a warmth and a sense of history and vitality to it. The windows donated by the Farkas family sort of increase that. And the setup also communicates what we're looking to communicate. You go to synagogues in Europe or in the Middle East, classical synagogues were set up this way, right? With a central bima, not the rabbi up here on a stage talking down to the congregation, which is what we have in the sanctuary. That's us copying Protestants. I don't want to be talking down to people as a voice on high. I like the setup here where we're sort of all in the round and we're all on the same level and it's accessible to everyone. And the leader is in the midst of everyone rather than above. So creating space that communicated our values was important. Handicap accessibility was hugely important. And a sense of intimacy while being big enough for an expansion of people, a sense of that classical Jewish feel, which you get with the bima in the center, without making it feel retro or old, and to be modern without it feeling cold and too modern. And somehow we actually achieved that. The lobby also is a big, having an entrance where people feel like they're entering something that's valued. In the old days, people would walk in from the parking lot because the front doors aren't used anymore, and they'd walk down. It's like a basement stairs they'd walk down. It's like you're walking into somebody's rec room, and it just wasn't. It didn't communicate. This is something important. And now we have something to communicate a sense of importance. Now we have something that communicates value and that you're in a place where something significant is going to happen. One more thing on the last few years here. The fact of the community coming together to plunk down some money to help rejuvenate the physical space is also a moving thing. At that, many people are blessed with some disposable income, and there's many different ways to use it. And to use it to help build up this sacred space is it's an honor to be able to see, and it's an honor to be a part of. When I think of what's next, I would say, when I think of what's next, I think of what drives me day to day is the central importance of what we do. What drives, I think, the synagogue, or at least me, I can't project me onto everyone else, but what drives me day to day is the essential part of what we're trying to do, which is, I think, to give a full expression to Jewish life that we fully and in a wholehearted way embrace the Jewish tradition. We don't throw out stuff just if it's inconvenient. And we embrace the ethical call of the Jewish tradition. When we talk about what God is, and we talk about how we aspire to sort of build ourselves in the image of God, as the Torah says, and to treat each other like the image of God. I like to think that we take that seriously, and that shows up in many different ways, day to day, and that's a central thing. Is that I believe deeply that nowhere can you find a more authentic practice of Judaism than what we do here. Many people could be on the right path, but and that could look different, but we are definitely among them. That's one thing. And as we build, I think it's important to continue to do that. That central text at the beginning of the Torah that says that humanity is created in the image of God, that we continue to use that as our guiding principle, that when people are at the end of life, we are there for them. And when people mourn their loved ones, we're there for them. And there's a beautiful prayer we say on the high holidays that we pray that Ta'azvenu, when saying that God, in my old age, don't abandon me, which is a very primal fear that people have. And I like to think that we sort of step in those things for people who are in lonely situations, scary situations. The community is present, and to be there for people, the other end of things, to make sure that that there's space for families and for children, that our expectations that families come in and that they can act like a family, and that children come in and they can act like children, that they don't. Not supposed to be miniature adults. They're supposed to be who they are, and that's an important piece, to show that there's a place where people can meet across and everyone in between. People in middle age, so a wide range of people, that everyone can feel like there's a place for them here. They can learn here, that they can ask questions here, they can feel at home here, they can meet other people here. This is where people eat and they schmooze for long periods on Saturday morning. This is where people sit quietly and they contemplate. This is where people ask hard questions. This is where people get comforting answers. This may be where people get unsettling answers. Maybe where people get answers to their questions. That's really just another question. But that's what Jewish life is supposed to be. And we can build on that. And we can be that. And we can be that even more so. And it just takes what it's always taken, which is people, members of the community, different members of the Jewish community, willing to step up. People who don't have to think that they're the most pious Jews in the universe, but they're looking to contribute. So what the synagogue needs is people willing to give of themselves, give some time, some emotion, some energy, some happiness, some smiles, some comfort, obviously some money that also helps make the world go around, some say, but it keeps the lights on, and we can be that, and it's nice. We're even a community that doesn't. I like to think that we don't obsess over things. People come into my office and they want to join the synagogue, or they want to convert, and they ask me about money, and I get to say, I don't know who pays what. That takes place in another office. Nobody will be turned away for lack of money. If there's a problem, call me. But I get to treat people the same way, regardless of what they're giving. We even put up a donor wall that includes everyone who gave from $20 on up to a lot more than $20. And so it's a place where people can come and be who they are and more, connect with themselves and connect with God, and that this is it's a place, a makom Torah, it's a place where we can learn Torah, connect with God, connect with each other, and move the Jewish tradition into its new era, which will be one of probably greater egalitarianism, I think, greater connectedness as technology makes information more accessible to people in different ways. People want a greater stake in what they do, and we can provide that, and we can not be afraid of that. And in a place where people have virtual communities, we can be that, and we can be a real community. And where people spend time on Facebook, we can be a place where people encounter real faces and real books, and be a place where there's an added depth given to life.
Okay, that was good. Take the answer to say. I think we're almost done. I feel that maybe what I'd like to hear you comment on is what does conservative Judaism have to offer today to, 20, 30-somethings like what's our future in Hamilton? What's the future of conservative Judaism in Hamilton, given the fact that most Jews, young Jews, aren't interested in affiliating? That seems to be the trend. What's our niche going forward?
There has traditionally, throughout the decades of the Jews' stay in North America, been a dip of people, of a lack of affiliation for people between their going off to school, leaving their parents' home, and they're starting a family of their own. That's long been the case. Part of our issue now is that period tends to be longer as people, as educated people, which disproportionately hits Jews, tend not to get married, start a family, sometimes into their mid-30s, late 30s, early 40s, and on, right? So whereas at one point in time that fallow period could have just been a few years. Now it stretches out a lot longer, and people and folks are ingrained in their habits by the time they're snapping out of it. So, yeah, I guess the model that we have now for synagogues in North America wasn't handed down to Moses at Mount Sinai. It was come up with to address a specific moment in time in a specific situation. In Europe, people essentially paid taxes, which would double back and support the synagogue. In North America, that wasn't the case. People paid dues to build a synagogue. And maybe that model has to change into something else, whatever it might be. But if the social situation changes, then the synagogue essentially seeks to meet that. We are obligated to meet people where they're at in terms of trying to address the social needs that are always going on. Some things in Judaism are fixed and unchanging, and some things aren't. And we have there's a famous midrash of Moses not recognizing what's going on in the Talmudic classroom of Rabbi Akiva. So it seems that the rabbis for thousands of years were aware that Judaism changed from era to era, but it always has the same kernel of leaping off from the same spot. So by combining the ability to access deeper thoughts, ancient wisdom, and a certain ethnic and religious and cultural and spiritual inheritance that I think is unique to Jewish life, and in many ways I think is unique in some ways can be unique to conservative Jewish life, which is to say, embracing the tradition while embracing the ethical imperatives of the tradition in this unique way. I think we can do that. I think that there's something that we do here that isn't done anywhere else. And maybe in the future there'll be more people to support it. Maybe there won't. All we can do is to try and make sure that what we have, that we're delivering it as well as we can, and trying to let as many people as possible know that that's going on. And some people say the future of Judaism will be on the right, that it will be non-egalitarian. And I don't think that's the case. And some people think it'll be on the left, where there'll be fewer walls and fewer borders between the Jewish world and the rest of the world. And I don't think that's the case either. I think that all of that will continue to flourish. But I also think that there's room in the center for what we do here, and that will, and that might not be the most numerous group in the Jewish world, but Jews have never been focused just on numbers, because we are outnumbered by everyone else. So it's not about having the most numbers, it's about having the highest quality and delivering a sense of godliness and a sense of the wisdom of the sages. And I think we can do that.